The fluorescent hum of my office light buzzed like a swarm of angry bees, but it was nothing compared to the thunderclap of Alex's lips crashing against mine. His hands, trembling yet insistent, gripped my collar as if I were the only anchor in his unraveling world. And in that stolen second, the sterile walls of my Manhattan therapy suite dissolved into something dangerously alive. I shoved him back. Not hard, but enough to break the spell. My heart slamming against my ribs like a prisoner demanding release, whispering the one truth I'd buried for months. This wasn't just a line crossed. It was the fault line of everything I thought I knew about myself. "Adam," he gasped, eyes wild with that mix of defiance and desperation that had haunted our sessions from day one. "I can't pretend anymore. You're the only one who sees me." And just like that, the boy who'd walked in broken was the man who'd just shattered us both. I was Dr. Adam Hale, 35, licensed psychologist in the heart of New York City, where the skyline scraped the heavens and secrets festered in the shadows of brownstones. My practice occupied the third floor of a pre-war building on the Upper West Side, a space I'd curated to feel like a sanctuary. Leather armchairs worn soft from confessions, bookshelves groaning under Freud and Foucault, and a window overlooking the Hudson that let in just enough light to remind patients, and me, that there was a world beyond the pain they carried. I'd built my life on boundaries, on the sacred code of do no harm, but Alex Rivera had slipped through the cracks like rain through a sieve. He was 20, a sophomore at NYU studying film, with the kind of effortless beauty that turned heads on crowded subways. Olive skin glowing under the city's neon haze, curly black hair that fell in rebellious waves over his forehead, and green eyes that held storms you could drown in. But it was his voice that got me first, low and laced with a Brooklyn edge, spilling stories of a childhood splintered by his father's abandonment and his mother's endless shifts at the diner. He'd come to me after a breakdown in his dorm, fists bloody from punching a mirror, convinced he was unlovable, a ghost in his own life. "I don't know how to feel real anymore," he'd said in that first session, and I'd nodded, jotting notes, feeling the familiar pull of empathy that came with the job. Little did I know, it was the hook that would reel me under. Our sessions were Tuesdays at 4 p.m., a ritual that anchored my week amid the chaos of grad students unraveling over theses and executives cracking under boardroom pressure. Alex arrived early those first few weeks, slouched in the waiting room with a dog-eared copy of The Perks of Being a Wallflower, his sneakers tapping an anxious Morse code on the hardwood. I'd greet him with a neutral smile, the one I'd practiced in mirrors to keep things professional, and we'd dive in, unpacking the weight of his queerness in a family that prayed the rainbow away, the hookups that left him hollow, the dreams of directing movies that captured the ache of unspoken love. "You're not broken, Alex," I'd tell him, leaning forward just enough to bridge the gap without invading it. "You're human. And humans, we get to rewrite the script." He'd laugh then, a sound like sunlight breaking through clouds, and I'd feel a warmth in my chest that I chalked up to therapeutic success. But lies have a way of multiplying. I was out myself, had been since college, when a fumbling kiss with my roommate under the Yale quad lights cracked open the closet door for good. Divorced now, after a 5-year marriage to Sarah that crumbled under the truth of who I was, I prided myself on being the steady one, the guide. Yet Alex's gaze lingered a beat too long on my hands as I gestured, on the curve of my jaw when I spoke. I told myself it was transference, the classic patient crush on the safe authority figure. But deep down, in the quiet hours after he left, I'd replay his words, his laugh, and wonder what it would be like to hear my name not as Dr. Hale, but just Adam. By month 3, the air between us thickened, charged like the prelude to a summer storm. He'd started dressing up for sessions. Fitted tees that hugged his lean frame, jeans that whispered against the chair as he shifted. One afternoon, as rain lashed the windows, he confessed his latest heartbreak. A guy from his film class who'd ghosted him after a night of too much tequila and tangled sheets. He said I was too intense, Alex muttered, picking at a thread on his sleeve. Like feeling something real is a fucking crime. I handed him a tissue, our fingers brushing, and the jolt that shot through me was electric. Undeniable. Intensity isn't a flaw, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. It's your superpower. The world needs more of it. His eyes met mine, holding, searching, and for a heartbeat, the room shrank to just us. 2 men adrift in a sea of what-ifs. That night, alone in my one-bedroom overlooking Central Park, I poured a scotch and stared at the skyline, the city's pulse mocking my own erratic rhythm. I dated since the divorce, dinners with architects who quoted Whitman, coffee with writers who bled poetry, but no one stuck. They saw the polished exterior, the man who'd aced his boards and built a practice from scratch after scraping by on adjunct gigs. But Alex, he saw the fractures. The way my smile faltered when I talked about my ex-wife's lingering resentment, the nights I woke sweating from dreams of what my conservative parents in Ohio would say if they knew their golden boy was gay. In him, I glimpsed the version of myself I'd buried young, wild and unafraid. The crossing happened on a Tuesday like any other, but the air hummed with something feral. Alex burst in late, soaked from a downpour, his shirt clinging translucent to his chest, droplets tracing paths down his neck. Sorry, he panted, collapsing into the chair. Subway stalled. Everything's always fucking stalling. We started late, diving into his latest script, a short film about a boy who falls for his best friend's brother, only to watch it all burn. As he read aloud, his voice cracked on the line, I love you in a way that scares me, and the room went still. He looked up, cheeks flushed, and the words hung between us like a dare. Alex, I began, but he was on his feet, crossing the rug in 2 strides. His kiss was fire, desperate, tasting of rain and rebellion, and I froze, every ethical oath screaming in my skull. But my body betrayed me, hands rising to his waist, pulling him closer for one traitorous breath before reason clawed back. I broke away, chest heaving, the world tilting. We can't, I whispered, but it came out wrecked, plea more than a command. Why not? He demanded, eyes blazing. Because of your degree, your goddamn couch? I'm not a kid, Adam. I know what I want. He stepped back, raking hands through his wet hair, vulnerability cracking his armor. And I see it in you too. Every time you look at me like I'm more than a file on your desk. I sank into my chair, the leather creaking like a confession. This isn't about want, I said, forcing the words through the lump in my throat. It's about trust. I could lose everything, my license, my practice. And you. You'd be the one hurt most. But even as I spoke, the lie twisted. The real risk was me, cracking open after years of careful containment. He didn't leave that day. Instead, we sat in silence, the rain a relentless drum against the glass, until the clock ticked past 5. Tell me one thing true, he said finally, voice soft as smoke. Do you feel it? I met his gaze, the weight of it pinning me. Yes, I admitted, the word a key turning in a long-locked door. God help me. Yes, that admission was the spark. The next week, he didn't show. I paced my office, phone silent, replaying the kiss in fevered loops. By Friday, worry gnawed. Had I pushed too far? Was he spiraling? I broke protocol, texting from my personal line. Everything okay? We can reschedule. No reply. Saturday dawned gray, and impulse won. I drove to his Brooklyn walk-up, the address he'd let slip months ago in a haze of trust. The door swung open to chaos. Takeout boxes strewn like casualties. His roommate, a lanky art major named Theo, hovering with a trash bag. Alex? He's not great, Theo said, stepping aside. I found him curled on the futon, eyes red-rimmed, a half-empty bottle of Jack on the floor. You came, he murmured, surprise flickering through the fog. Couldn't not, I said, kneeling beside him, the scent of stale sweat and regret thick in the air. He reached for me, tentative, and I didn't pull away. We talked, not as doctor and patient, but as two souls frayed at the edges. He confessed the panic after our kiss, the fear of ruining me, the echo of every rejection screaming he'd do it again. I shared fragments of my own scars, the Yale nights hiding in library stacks, the divorce papers signed with hands that shook. By midnight, his head rested on my shoulder, breaths sinking in the dim lamplight, and I knew we'd tumbled over the edge. What followed was a fever dream of stolen moments, the kind that bloom in the cracks of forbidden lives. Coffee runs in hidden cafes off Washington Square, where he'd sketch storyboards on napkins and I'd trace the veins on his wrist with my thumb. Late-night walks along the High Line, his hand brushing mine under the pretext of pointing out graffiti murals that whispered of queer icons long gone. Sex came tentatively, in my apartment with its view of the park's autumn blaze, his body urgent and reverent against mine, mapping me like a film he'd direct 1,000 times. You're beautiful, he'd murmur into my neck, and I'd believe him, if only for the night. But love, the real kind, doesn't stay in shadows. It demands light, and light exposes. Alex's scripts grew bolder, infused with us the hesitant touches, the ache of goodbye at dawn. I watched him flourish in class, his professor praising the raw emotional core that mirrored our hidden world. Yet guilt shadowed me like a tail. I'd cancel sessions with other clients, citing emergencies, my notes on Alex reduced to cryptic scrawls. Colleagues noticed my distraction, the way I'd zone out at networking mixers, scotch untouched. Everything all right? Hail? My mentor, Dr. Elena Vasquez, asked over lunch at a midtown deli, her eyes sharp behind bifocals. You look like you're carrying the world. Just the usual, I lied, forcing a grin. But inside, the fault lines widened. Alex wanted more dinners out, not just takeout in. My name on his lips in public, not whispered in bed. We're not criminals, he'd argue, frustration etching his brow as we lay tangled in sheets. Why hide like we are? Because we are, I'd counter, the words bitter. To the board, to the ethics code. One whisper, and it's over, for both of us. He'd storm out then, slamming the door to my building's lobby, leaving me with the echo and the cold seep of regret. The betrayal slithered in unannounced, courtesy of Theo. Alex's roommate, turned out, had suspicions, overheard a late-night call, pieced together the therapy that left Alex glowing. Jealousy fueled him. He'd nursed a crush on Alex since freshman orientation, dismissed as just brothers. One boozy night at a Bushwick bar, Theo cornered him. "If you're screwing your shrink, you're dumber than I thought. He'll drop you the second it gets real." Alex laughed it off, but the seed took root, watered by Theo's anonymous email to the New York State Office of Professions. Dr. Adam Hale, unethical relations with patient Alex Rivera. Check the dates. The complaint landed in my inbox on a crisp November morning. The subject line, "Formal Inquiry. A Guillotine Blade." My hands shook as I printed it, the words blurring. Allegations of boundary violation. Potential revocation of license. Immediate suspension pending investigation. Elena called an hour later, voice clipped. "Adam, what the hell? This is career suicide." I denied it. Of course, transference. A misunderstanding, but the lie tasted like ash. Alex texted mid-afternoon. "Heard from Theo. It's out." "What do we do?" I met him at our spot, a bench on the Bethesda terrace where tourists milled oblivious. He arrived disheveled. I shadowed, clutching a script like a shield. "He sold us out," Alex spat, voice cracking. "For what? Petty revenge?" I told him we were real, Adam. Real. Rain threatened again, the air heavy with unshed tears. I pulled him close, ignoring the jogger's glances, my world narrowing to his warmth. "We'll fight it," I promised, though doubt gnawed. "Lawyers, appeals. But you have to step back. No contact, for your sake." His flinch was a knife. "Step back? After everything? You're choosing the suit over us." "It's not a choice," I roared, frustration boiling over. "It's survival. Mine, yours, ours, if there's any chance left." We argued until dusk bled into night, words like shrapnel, his accusations of cowardice, my pleas for time. He left with a final, gutting look. "I thought you were the one who saw me," and I watched his silhouette dissolve into the crowd, a ghost I'd conjured. The investigation dragged through winter, a gauntlet of depositions and interrogations that stripped me bare. Elena advocated, pulling strings with the board, but the evidence mounted. Time-stamped texts, witness statements from doormen spotting, frequent visitor. Alex, bless him, stonewalled. Nothing happened, just support, but his eyes in the rare, supervised clearance meeting screamed betrayal's sting. Theo recanted under pressure, claiming misunderstanding, but the damage festered. Clients dwindled. My savings bled dry on legal fees. Nights blurred into bourbon haze, the apartment echoing with absence. Climax hit in February, a blizzard burying the city in white silence. The board's verdict arrived via certified mail. Suspension, 6 months, with probation. No revocation yet, but the scarlet letter burned. I drove to Brooklyn through the storm, wipers slashing futilely, heart a war drum. Alex's building loomed, lights mocking from his window. I buzzed, waited, the cold seeping bone deep. He answered in sweats, hair tousled, surprise yielding to wariness. "Adam, what are you? I had to see you." I cut in, stepping inside uninvited, snow melting in my wake. The apartment smelled of ramen and regret, scripts piled like fallen soldiers. "It's over. The suspension." I can't do this halfway anymore. Words tumbled, apologies for the hiding, confessions of love that had terrified me into chains. You were right. I was scared. Of losing control. Of being the villain in my own story. But without you, I'm just echoes. He listened, arms crossed, tears carving paths down his cheeks. You think I don't get scared? Every day. Loving someone who could walk away legal and clean. His voice broke, raw as winter wind. Theo wasn't the betrayal, Adam. It was you, choosing safe over us from the start. The fight reignited, fiercer than before. Shouts bouncing off peeling wallpaper. Truths hurled like grenades. He accused me of paternalism, of seeing him as the broken kid to fix. I fired back at his impulsiveness, the recklessness that invited ruin. We collapsed onto the futon, bent, foreheads touching in truce. I love you, he whispered, the words a bomb and a blade. But love isn't enough if it's poisoned. In that suspended moment, clarity dawned, not fireworks, but a quiet dawn. I saw us not as doctor and patient, but two men forged in America's unforgiving forge, him, the dreamer chasing frames of truth, me, the healer blind to his own wounds. We made love then, slow and sacred, the storm raging outside as witness. No promises, just presence, the press of skin, the sink of breaths, the unspoken vow to rebuild. Spring thawed the city, and with it, my suspension lifted in April, but I didn't return to the old practice. Instead, I pivoted, started a low-residency program for queer youth at a community center in Harlem, trading leather chairs for folding ones, Freud for lived stories. Alex graduated that May. His thesis film, Fault Lines, premiering at a Tribeca Short Fest. It was us, veiled in fiction. A mentor and mentee tumbling into love, betrayal's shadow, redemption's fragile light. Critics called it visceral, humanistic, and as I sat in the back row, his hand finding mine in the dark, I knew they were right. We didn't marry, no rings, no vows in a world that still judged. But we built. Lazy Sundays in my new walk-up near the center, where he'd edit footage on my laptop while I prepped workshops. Conflicts lingered. His wanderlust clashing with my rootedness, old insecurities flaring like summer heat. But we learned the dance. Talk before the storm, touch to mend the rift. One evening, as fireflies danced over the Hudson from our balcony, he turned to me, green eyes steady. We shifted everything, didn't we? I pulled him close. The cities hum our soundtrack. Yeah. And I'd crossed that line 1,000 times more. In the end, it wasn't happily ever after, but humanly so, flawed, fierce, alive. America, with its broad streets and buried pains, had room for us. Two men who dared the fault line and emerged, not unbroken, but beautifully scarred. The summer after the premiere sizzled with possibility. New York's heat wave turning sidewalks into griddles, and our tiny balcony into a steam bath. Alex thrived in the afterglow, fielding emails from indie producers who saw Fault Lines as the next queer breakout. This could be it, he'd say, pacing our living room with that infectious grin, phone glued to his ear. I'd watch from the kitchenette, stirring iced tea, a swell of pride mixing with the undercurrent of fear that never quite ebbed. Success meant spotlights, and spotlights had a way of illuminating skeletons. My new gig at the Harlem Center kept me grounded, Wednesdays and Fridays, facilitating groups for kids like the Alex I'd first met, trans teens navigating bathroom bills, by boys dodging slurs on the court. Their stories echoed his, raw and resilient, reminding me why I'd pivoted. "You're good at this," one girl, Mia, told me after a session on boundaries, her voice shy but sure. Like, "You get it without making us feel small." I nodded, throat tight, thinking of the boy who'd once made me feel infinite. But cracks spiderwebbed. Alex's schedule ballooned, meetings in LA, scouting locations in the Catskills, and our nights shortened to hurried collisions, bodies seeking what words couldn't bridge. One sticky July evening, he burst through the door at 2 a.m., reeking of craft beer and cologne that wasn't mine. "Producer thing," he mumbled, stripping off his shirt, but his eyes skittered away. I lay awake beside him, the city's distant sirens a mocking lullaby, wondering if Theo's ghost had spawned more traitors. It unraveled over breakfast the next morning, sunlight slanting through blinds like accusatory fingers. He was scrolling emails, half a bagel forgotten, when I set down my coffee. "Who's the cologne for, Alex?" The question hung casual, but my pulse betrayed me. He froze, fork midway to his mouth. "What? Oh, that it's nothing." Some schmo from the agency spilled his on me during drinks, but his laugh was off, brittle as autumn leaves. I leaned back, arms crossing like a shield. "We've been here before." The hiding, the half-truths. "If it's something, it's not," he snapped, slamming his phone down. The screen lit up with a text preview. "Last night was electric. Dinner soon?" My stomach plummeted. "Jordan," I said, the name a punch. Jordan Hale, no relation, thank God, a rising producer in his 40s, all Silver Fox charm and Hollywood gloss. I'd met him at the premiere, his handshake lingering, his gaze appraising Alex like fresh talent to mold. "Tell me I'm wrong," Alex deflated, rubbing his temples. "It's just networking, Adam. Dinner, maybe a drink." He's got connections, Sundance panel, real budget for my next script. With cologne and electric nights, the betrayal stung fresh. Not from infidelity, Alex wasn't built for that, but from the echo of our own genesis. Stolen moments, blurred lines. "Am I the fool here, or are you still running from what we are?" He stood, chair scraping. "You're twisting it. This is my shot, our shot. You think I want to play games after everything?" Tears welled, but anger masked them. "Maybe if you weren't so busy playing savior to every kid in Harlem, you'd see I'm drowning too." The words landed like slaps, reopening old wounds. I rose, voice low. Don't make this about my work. You knew what you signed up for, the mess, the growth. Or was that just pretty words for your film?" He grabbed his keys, storming out with a final glare. "Fuck you, Adam. Some of us want more than therapy circles and quiet nights." The door slammed, reverberating through the floorboards, leaving me in a silence thicker than the heat. Days blurred into a standoff. He crashed at Theo's, irony's cruel joke, texting logistics, picking up clothes Thursday. I threw myself into the center, extending hours, ignoring Elena's concerned voicemails. "You're spiraling. Mi amor," she said when I finally picked up, her Puerto Rican lilt warm over the line. "This isn't just about him. It's you, facing what the board dug up." She was right. Damn her. The suspension had unearthed more than ethics breaches, old files from my Yale days, whispers of inappropriate closeness with a professor that I'd buried under achievements. Therapy had been my armor, but now it chafed. I booked a session with a colleague downtown, spilling the bile, the fear that loving Alex made me the predator, the enabler. "You're human," my therapist, Raj, said, his calm a lifeline. "Boundaries bend, Adam. They don't break you unless you let them, but bending had costs." Alex returned that Thursday, duffel slung over his shoulder, face a mask of resolve. "I'm subletting a spot in Williamsburg," he said, avoiding my eyes as he packed. "Need space to breathe." It's suffocating. Heart fracturing. I blocked the door. "Talk to me." "Really? Is it Jordan, or me, being the relic who can't keep up?" He paused, hoodie half-zipped, vulnerability cracking through. "It's everything. The center's great for you, but I'm 22, Adam. Chasing dreams. Yeah. But terrified I'll wake up at 35 regretting the what-ifs. Like you did. The arrow hit true. My divorce. My late coming out. Ghosts in the room." I stepped aside, throat burning. "Then go. But know this, I never regretted you. Not once." He lingered, hand on the knob, then pulled me into a kiss fierce. "Farewell." "I love you," he whispered against my lips. That's the problem. And he was gone. The click of the latch a period on our chapter. Williamsburg suited him. Lofts with exposed brick. Dive bars pulsing with indie kids. Social media painted his ascent. Clips from Jordan-funded shoots. Festival invites. Captions laced with wry humor that masked the hollow. I followed from afar, like my silent cheers, the center my refuge. Mia's group evolved. She directed a short on family rejection, premiering at a youth showcase where I teared up in the front row. "Thanks to you," she said after, hugging fierce. Progress, bittersweet. Fall crept in with amber leaves and a nagging ache. Elena dragged me to a gala at the Met, black tie, champagne flutes, egos on parade. I was nursing a gin when Jordan approached, all teeth and tailored suit. "Dr. Hail," he drawled, "heard you're branching out." "Noble. Alex speaks highly, well, did." The mention twisted the knife. "He's thriving," I replied, neutral as ice. "You, investing in talent." His wink was predatory. "Kid's a star." Shame about the complications. Rage simmered, but I held. Complications make the best stories. Write yours carefully. I walked away, pulse thundering, vowing silence. But doubt festered. Was Jordan the betrayal, or had I pushed Alex into arms that gleamed brighter? The call came Halloween night, city alive with costumed revelry. Alex's voice, slurred and shattered. "Adam, I fucked up. Jordan, he's not right. Come get me?" Coordinates pinged. A party in Bushwick, warehouse thumping with bass. I drove through throngs of witches and zombies, heart in my throat. Inside, strobe lights fractured the chaos. I found him in a corner, makeup smeared, rejecting Jordan's wandering hand. "Enough," Alex shoved, spotting me. "That's him. The one." Jordan sneered. "Therapist X? Dramatic." But Alex ignored him, stumbling into my arms. Take me home, he begged, breath hot against my neck. We fled to my place, our place, still scattered with his scripts. He vomited in the sink, confessions spilling after Jordan's pressure, the networking blurring to coercion, the realization that ambition without heart was ash. I thought it'd fix the emptiness, he sobbed, curled on the bathroom tile. But it's you. Always was. I held him through the night, strokes soothing, words weaving repair. Dawn broke with tentative peace. No grand gestures, just coffee and quiet truths. We need rules, I said, tracing his knuckles. No hiding. And therapy for both of us, separate. He nodded, eyes clearing. Deal. But I'm not subletting anymore. If we're doing this, it's all in. Winter that year was our forge. Couples counseling with Raj's partner, a no-nonsense LMFT named Lena, unearthed the rot, my control issues, his fear of stagnation. We fought, ugly, in grocery aisles and over takeout, but reconciled fiercer, love tempered by fire. Alex's next project, Echoes, delved into betrayal's gray zones, earning a grant and my unreserved pride. By spring, as cherry blossoms dusted the park, we stood on our balcony, his head on my shoulder. Shifted again, he murmured, fingers laced with mine. For the better, I replied, kissing his temple. The city sprawled below, vast and forgiving, mirroring the expanse in us. The grant for Echoes transformed Alex from dreamer to dynamo, his days a whirlwind of pre-production meetings and late-night storyboards that lit our apartment like a film set. I adapted, carving space in my center schedule for his chaos, picking up Ty on my way home, rubbing his shoulders as he paced, muttering lines about fractured trusts. This one's for us, he'd say, pulling me onto the couch, his passion a contagion that thawed the last of my reservations. But success, like love, casts long shadows, and ours loomed from unexpected quarters. It started with a letter, innocuous in its cream envelope, slipped under our door one muggy June morning. I tore it open while Alex slept off a midnight edit session, the words blurring under coffee weak eyes. Dear Mr. Rivera, we regret to inform you. Revocation of parental rights inquiry. Allegations of moral turpitude. My blood ran cold. His mother, Rosa, the diner waitress who'd raised him solo after his dad bolted, had filed. Citing our relationship, unearthed God knows how from tabloid whispers post-fault lines. Alex woke to my silence, the paper trembling in my grip. What? He croaked, sitting up, curls a riot. I handed it over, words failing. He scanned, color draining. This is bullshit. Mom wouldn't, but doubt flickered. Their last call had been strained, her rosary beads clicking like judgment over the line as he mentioned, my partner. We drove to Brooklyn that afternoon, the subway too claustrophobic for truths. Rosa's diner squatted on a corner lot, Formica counters scarred from decades of grease and grief. She spotted us through the window, wiping hands on her apron, face a mask of weary resolve. Alex, she said, hugging stiff, then nodding at me coolly. Doctor, back room, vinyl booth, coffee steaming bitter. Mama, why? Alex pleaded, voice small as a child's. After everything, her eyes, mirrors of his green, hardened. Everything? You parade this sin on screens. Bring shame to the family. Church says. Church? He exploded, slamming the table. The same church that turned its back when Dad left? When I was screaming inside. Tears streaked, but fury held. Adam's not sin. He's home. She crossed herself, whispering Spanish prayers. I protect you, Mijo. From hellfire, from ruin. This man, he's older. Your doctor. What happens when he tires? I interjected, voice even. Rosa, I love him. Not as a patient, never that. As a man who sees the world clearer because of him. But her gaze raked me, seeing predator, not partner. The inquiry dragged. A legal morass of affidavits and home visits that invaded our life like termites. Social workers poked through our fridge, quizzed Alex on stability. Eyed my center job as unconventional. Elena coached us pro bono, her fire matching Alex's. This is homophobia in legalese, she fumed over wine at our place. Fight dirty if you have to, but the toll mounted. Alex withdrew, scripts gathering dust, nights spent staring at ceilings. What if she's right? He'd whisper in the dark, body rigid beside mine. What if I'm the ruin? I pull him close, anchors in the storm. You're the light, Alex. Don't let fear dim it. We'd make love then, urgent and affirming, reclaiming what doubt stole. Yet the center suffered. I snapped at Mia during a group, projecting Rose's judgment onto her questions about healthy attachments. She called me out post-session. Fierce as ever. You're human, Doc. But we need you steady. Betrayal's second act came from within Jordan, ever the opportunist. Leaked concerns to a gossip rag. Rising queer director in custody battle. Is his muse a menace? The headlines splashed online. Echoes tainted before birth. Backlash hit. Funders pulled. Festival slots yanked. Alex spiraled, smashing a monitor in our living room, shards glittering like accusations. See? We're cursed, he roared, collapsing amid the wreckage. Every time we rise, crushes us. I knelt, glass-biting palms, drawing him into my lap. Not cursed. Tested. And we passed together. We called Lena that night, her exercises grounding us. Gratitude lists scrawled on napkins. Role plays of Rose's voice turned to empathy. Slowly, fractures mended. Alex reclaimed his script, infusing Rose's pain into a subplot. A mother's love warped by fear, redeemed in quiet apology. The hearing loomed in August, a sweltering courtroom in downtown Brooklyn where AC wheezed like labored breaths. Rosa sat opposite, flanked by a church deacon, her face etched deeper. The judge, a no-nonsense woman with salt and pepper hair, reviewed exhibits, our lease, Alex's festival awards, my ethics clearance post-suspension. Elena presented us as stable, loving, a unit forged in fire. Then Rose's turn. She rose, voice quavering but clear. I filed from fear. My boy, he shines so bright, and I saw shadows. But watching, learning, she glanced at Alex, tears spilling. I was wrong. Forgive a mother's heart. Gasps rippled. The deacon patted her hand. Alex stood, crossing the aisle to hug her, sobs mingling. The judge ruled swift. Inquiry dismissed. Rights intact. Family isn't blood alone, she intoned. It's choice. Yours is clear. Outside, under a sky bruising purple, Rosa embraced me, awkward but true. You make him happy, doctor. That's enough. We drove her home, diner lights winking farewell, the city exhaling with us. Echoes premiered that fall at Outfest, a triumph of grit and grace. Rosa attended, clutching Alex's arm, whispering critiques like any proud mom. Post-screening party. Toasts and tears, Jordan's absence a petty victory. As confetti rained, Alex pulled me aside, eyes alight. We did it. Despite the world. With the world, I corrected, kissing him deep, uncaring of stares. Love, we'd learned, wasn't hidden, it was claimed. But humanism demands nuance, and winter brought its own tempest. My parents, Ohio relics, churchgoers who'd accepted my divorce with strained silences, announced a visit. Time to meet this Alex, Dad said over the phone, voice gruff but curious. Alex panicked, pacing our holiday-decorated living room. What if they hate me? See the sin Rosa almost did. I cupped his face. Steady. They won't. Or if they do, we stand. Like always, their arrival was a comedy of Midwest earnestness. Mom's apple pie sweating in Tupperware, Dad's Packers cap clashing with our urban chic. Dinner at a cozy bistro near the center, pasta steaming, wine flowing tentative. Alex charmed with film tales, drawing laughs from Dad on Hollywood absurdities. Mom, quieter, watched us, her gaze softening over dessert. Later, in our apartment, she cornered me by the sink. He's good for you, Adam. Lights you up. Pause. Then, we were blind before. Sorry doesn't fix, but we're trying. Tears pricked. Forgiveness, fragile as snowflakes. Alex overheard, joining the hug, a triad mending across divides. Dad clapped my shoulder. Proud, son. Of both of you, spring bloomed fuller, our lives a tapestry woven tight. Alex landed a streaming deal for Echoes, funding a feature. I expanded the center, Mia interning under me, her energy a spark. Yet in quiet moments, his head in my lap during movie nights, my fingers in his curls, I marveled. We'd crossed lines, shifted worlds, emerged not unscathed, but whole. One evening, as twilight painted the skyline gold, Alex proposed, not rings, but a pact. Let's direct our own sequel, he said, kneeling playful. No scripts, just us travel, grow, love loud. I pulled him up, yes on my lips, heart full. America, vast and varied, stretched before us, a canvas for the stories we'd yet to tell. The sequel, as Alex dubbed it, launched that summer, a cross-country road trip in a rented Mustang convertible, top-down to swallow miles of heartland and horizon. We zigzagged from New York's concrete canyons to the Grand Canyon's yawning maw, chasing sunsets and dive-bar jukebox dreams. Stops were improv. A queer film fest in Austin where Alex networked sand sleaze, stargazing in New Mexico's high desert where I confessed boyhood stargazing wishes for escape. Now we chase stars together, he'd say, hand in mine over gearshift, wind whipping our laughter. Back in the city by Labor Day, the momentum lingered. Echoes dropped on streaming, climbing charts with reviews hailing its tender humanism amid betrayal's bite. Alex's star ascended modestly, interviews with Out and Variety, a TEDx talk on storytelling as survival that went viral among queer creators. I beamed from the wings, my center buzzing with inspired teen screening clips in group. "Your boyfriend's famous," Mia teased, bumping my shoulder. "Don't let it go to his head." But fame's underbelly nipped. Paparazzi snaps outside our building. Trolls dissecting our age gap online. Alex brushed it off publicly. Loves the real plot twist. But privately, anxiety gnawed. One night, post a glitzy after-party. He stumbled in. "Tyascu, eyes glassy." "They asked about you," he slurred, collapsing on the bed. "Therapist turned lover, Stockholm?" Laughing, like we're a punchline. I undressed him gentle, wiping makeup smears. "Their noise." "We're signal." But his words echoed my deepest fear, that our origin story, born of crossed lines, defined us eternally as scandal, not substance. Autumn deepened the rift. A script offer pulled him to LA for pilot season, a queer rom-com series, tempting with stability. 6 months. Tops. He promised at JFK. Kiss lingering. Video calls. Weekends. We got this. We didn't. Time zones mangled rhythms. My center's expansion demanded nights. His additions swallowed days. Texts devolved to emojis, calls to check-ins. Loneliness crept, a thief in the night. I dated no one, couldn't, but flirted with distraction. Happy hours with Elena, where her stories of her wife's proposal distracted from my ache. Betrayal specter returned via email, an anonymous leak to a podcaster, exposing our history, session notes twisted, dates fabricated. It aired mid-November, a hit piece titled From Couch to Bedroom, The Ethics of Queer Desire. Backlash erupted. Center donors wavering. Alex's LA agent panicking. Image issue. Kid. He flew back furious. Confrontation crackling in our airport-adjacent cab. "This you're doing?" he accused, scrolling headlines. "Some ex-client grudge?" I recoiled. "Me? After all we've built." Hurt flared to fire. "Maybe it's your Hollywood crowd, sniffing for dirt to spice the narrative." He laughed bitter. "Right? Blame the dream chaser. You're the one who started this, as my fucking shrink." The cab swerved to our block. We stormed up, words escalating in the elevator. "You crossed the line first," I shouted, he jamming. Kissed me, pulled me under. "Now I'm the villain. You enabled," he hurled back, door slamming. Saw my mess and thought, fix him, then fuck him. Classic power trip. We circled like boxers, breaths ragged, until exhaustion won. He sank to the floor, back to wall. "I'm scared, Adam. This us, it's the only real thing, but the world's clawing it apart." I slid down beside him, hands finding his. Then we claw back. Together, reconciliation was raw. A weekend retreat to my Ohio family farm, borrowed for solitude. We hiked trails blanketed in fallen leaves, spilling fears by campfires, his of fading into the boyfriend, mine of being the anchor that drowned us. "Humanistic doesn't mean perfect," I said, roasting marshmallows. "It means messy grace." Back in NYC, we strategized, joint statement to the Podcasters Network, demanding retraction, therapy refreshers with Lena, unpacking fame's poison. The center stabilized, donors reassured by my transparency. Growth includes owning shadows, Alex's series greenlit, but with clauses for personal integrity. Winter holidays tested resolve. Rosa hosted Thanksgiving, her table a mosaic of cultures. My parents' casserole beside her eras con gandals, laughter bridging gaps. Dad pulled Alex aside for man talk, emerging with beers and grins. Christmas, our first shared tree, ornaments tagged with inside jokes, fault line fixer, scripted heart. New Year dawned with promise. Alex's feature wrapped principal photography in the spring, a road trip epic mirroring ours. Premiere at Sundance, snow-dusted Park City, us in matching wool coats, hands clasped on red carpet. Critics raved, a love letter to endurance, laced with America's grit. Rosa teared up in the theater. My mom squeezed my knee. Yet climax brewed subtle, in quiet domesticity. One April evening, post-center fundraiser, I came home to Alex on one knee. Not playful this time, but ring in hand. Simple platinum, engraved shifted forever. Marry me, he said, voice steady. Not for the world, but us. Vows to cross every line worth crossing. Tears blurred. I nodded, pulling him up. Yes. 1,000 times. The wedding was intimate Central Park boathouse. Summer solstice sun gilding vows. Elena officiated, quipping on boundaries as bridges. Mia filmed, Rosa and my parents witnessing with tissues at ready. Reception. Rooftop under stars. Toasts to resilience. First dance to a jazz quartet's. What a wonderful world. Years folded forward. Alex's Oscar nod for screenplay. My center franchising to Chicago. Conflicts ebbed. His travel tantrums. My overprotectiveness, but love deepened. A river carving canyons. We mentored. Him guest lecturing at NYU. Me consulting on his sets for authentic arcs. At 45, gray threading my temples, I watched Alex direct from a folding chair on location in the Rockies, his passion undimmed. Still shifting? He asked that night, wine by the fire. Always, I replied, kissing him slow. And I'd follow every fault line. In America's vast narrative, dramatic, emotional, romantic, raw, we wrote our chapter. Not tragedy, nor flawless fairy tale, but profoundly human. Two men, lines crossed, worlds forever altered, hearts irrevocably home.